My people not be small matter. Now what for this our country called Nigeria? Now only God will save us for this country. They don't finally expose Dangote and Tinubu, my people. Make una watch this video. Make una see wetin Tinubu and Dangote discuss, my people. Make una hear their plan. My people, make una not forget, make una share this video. Make una use the press like button so that make Facebook recommend this video to other people.
Before you blame or praise Tinubu for his first 2 weeks, going on 3 weeks in office, there are some things that we need to just ponder about. Some people are praising him. They say he has done so much within a very short time, things that no other president could do. Some people think otherwise. Now, for those who think that he has done so well, they reference things like removing fuel subsidy as an achievement, and they reference signing the electricity bill as an achievement. They also reference signing the student loan bill as an achievement. They reference the suspension of Emefiele, the suspension of Bauer as an achievement. They claim he has done so much and he should be hailed. But before we go ahead to praise or blame him, let's look at these things that he has done in proper context, because for you to praise or blame a president or a government, you need to consider what the president or the government has done. Now, what is the primary responsibility of government? It is the security and welfare of the people. So if we're going to judge Tinubu based on his first 3 weeks in office to determine whether he has done well or otherwise, we need to check how has the welfare of Nigerians fared in these past 2 going on 3 weeks of Tinubu's administration. So let me ask you, how is your welfare? How is your condition of living? Are you enjoying more than you were enjoying before? Are you buying things cheaper than you were buying before? Are you getting more money now than you were getting before? The number of unemployed persons, is it dropping in the first 3 weeks? These are the things that we need to look at to decide whether to praise or to blame Tinubu. Now, what is your answer? Let it not just be me talking. How would you rate yourself regardless of who you supported for presidency? I didn't support Tinubu and I'm unapologetic about it. But let's be objective. In these first 2 or first 3 weeks of Tinubu's presidency, with what he has done, with all the bills that he has signed, with all the subsidy that he removed, with the devaluation of the naira in the name of unification of the FX window, you tell me, how is your condition of living? How is it? If it is better than before May 29, then go ahead and clap for Tinubu. But if it is not, then you are free to do whatever you want to do. Let me know in the comment section. But for me, this is how I view things.
There is an elite corps in this country that has dominated American society. A trilateral commission, Council on Foreign Relations. Well, let's face it, they've dominated the State Department for 40 years, and pretty much openly.
Right, well, what are they trying to do?
Well, their objective is to try to bring about a gradual transition in our society, a dissolving of sovereignty, and a moving steadily to the left on the political spectrum.
Well, who are they?
The elitist groups that I mentioned, particularly key individuals and policymakers in the Council
Is
on
the
Foreign
International
Relations.
Monetary Fund part of it?
Well, I would say the International Monetary Fund has certainly been set up for the purpose of facilitating that transfer of sovereignty and transfer of wealth. You are looking at a group that has worked to bring about the dissolution of national sovereignty on the road to world government.
I would go to countries with resources our corporations covet, like oil. I'd arrange a huge loan to those countries from the World Bank or its sister organizations, but the money wouldn't actually go to the country. It would go to our corporations, Bechtel, Halliburton, Brown and Root, familiar names, to build big infrastructure projects in those countries and incidentally make huge profits in the process. They'd build power plants and industrial parks, things that would benefit a few wealthy families in the country, the ones that own the industries. But the majority of the people would suffer. They would be left holding a huge debt they couldn't repay. So we go back and say, since you can't pay your debt, sell your resource, oil or whatever, real cheap to our corporations. Privatize. Sell your utilities, your schools, your jails, everything like that to our corporations. And Claudine also told me that if the leaders of these countries refused my offer, people she called jackals would be right behind me. I didn't actually carry a gun, but the jackals did.
All the things that Tinubu has done so far, all of them indicates that Tinubu is starting on a wrong foot. Is starting on a wrong foot, and I'll tell you why. The Western powers, led by America, followed closely by the UK and the EU, they have a strategy, and their strategy, I call it the colonial virus disease mutation 3. Colonial virus disease mutation 3. That strategy is targeted at keeping us dependent on them. That strategy of the US through the IMF and the World Bank is targeted at making sure that African countries, and inclusive of Nigeria, are dependent on the West, on the Europeans for goods. The strategy is targeted at making us consumers rather than producers. The strategy is targeted at making us remain in consumption rather than moving us to production. That is their strategy. And to bring about that strategy, they need three things from us. One, they want us to devalue our naira so that they can spend less dollar to buy over more things from us. That's one. They want us to devalue our naira. Two, they want us to increase the pump price of fuel. And the excuse to do that is removal of fuel subsidy. They need that. That's number two. Number three, they need us to privatize. They need us to do what? Privatize. Now, each of these three things, Tinubu has served them on a platter of gold. Many people look at the electricity bill and they clap for Tinubu, but I look at it and I weep for Nigeria. Why do I weep? Now, the electricity bill has granted private individuals the freedom to generate electricity, right, and determine price. The freedom to generate electricity and determine price. Now let me ask you, how many individuals in Nigeria can generate their own electricity? You answer that, but I will tell you quickly that only those people who have backings of these so-called multinationals, international companies, who will bring in the dollars to buy up or create those companies, only them can generate the electricity. And of course, they will sell it to you at the price at which they will maximize their profit. So what has that done? It will increase your cost of living. So what you are seeing as an addition is not necessarily an addition. If that will create 100,000 jobs, it will kill 1 million jobs. So the net of it is going to favor the Western countries that are going to provide that electricity generation infrastructure, which is what they want. Privatization. We gave it to them with that electricity bill. That's one. Number two, they wanted increase in pump price of fuel, and we served it to them in the name of fuel subsidy removal. Now, I am not in support of the fraud that was going on in the name of subsidy. What I stand for is this. Yes, there was subsidy fraud because really there was no subsidy. What could Tinubu have done? Tinubu could have opened the veil and looked into the fraud that was called subsidy and made those people who have been fraudulently defrauding Nigeria for the past years to pay back what they have stolen and recover those monies that he can use to activate Ajaokuta Steel, activate Alaja Steel, set Nigeria rolling industrially on the path to industrialization, create minimum of 10 million jobs. That's what that would have done for us without the need to increase the pump price of fuel. Now many people argue that, oh, the fuel of Nigeria is cheaper than that of our neighbors. That is encouraging smuggling. Hello, Nigeria is not the cheapest seller of fuel in Africa. Egypt sells fuel cheaper than us, Angola sells fuel cheaper than us, Libya sells fuel cheaper than us, even Algeria sells fuel cheaper than us, and they are not so far from Nigeria. So if those countries sell fuel cheaper than Nigeria, how come their petrol is not being smuggled from their country into Nigeria?